Hi, my name's Katie Dwyer. I'm an instructor at Tech Elevator, and I'd like to talk to you today about why removing items while you're iterating through a list is a very bad idea. You've probably heard that before, but I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about why. So let's start out with our list of integers called Jenny. We're going to instantiate an array list, and that's going to contain 8675309. I bet you sung that. So first we're going to print out the current list. Then we're going to write a for each loop to remove all of the even numbers. So I'm going to say for integer number in Jenny. So I'm going to loop through the list, and every element or item I'm going to refer to as number as I'm looping through. Then I'll check if number mod 2 equals 0, if it's even. So my integers will automatically get unboxed into an int in order to perform the mod operation. So if they're even, I'm going to call jenny.remove and pass in number. Since the number is an integer and not an int at this point, it's going to call the remove that accepts an object as the parameter and not the remove that accepts an index as the parameter. Then I'm going to go ahead and print my list again. Let's see what happens. Oh no, I have an exception. It says, let's see, I'm not allowed to modify the code, or I'm not allowed to modify the list as I'm looping through it. So I'm getting a pretty big hint that this is a bad idea. I'm going to comment that out, and I'll comment out the print as well. And let's try again. So again, my original list is 8675309. If I remove all of the even numbers, I should be left with 7539. So let's try again. This time, instead of using a for each loop, let's use a plain old for loop. So here I'm going to say for int I equals 0, I less than jenny.size, I plus plus. So every index I'm going to go through, and I'll say if jenny.get I, which will get the item at that index, if that mod 2 equals 0, or if it's even, I'm going to say jenny.remove I. Notice since I is an int, I'm removing it by the index here. And then I'm going to print it at the end. Remove evens in the for, and then my list that I get back. So again, if I'm removing all of the even numbers, which logically it looks like I'm doing, I should be left with 7539. Let's see what happens when I run this. Before 8675309, after removing the evens, 67539. Wait, that's not right. Why didn't it remove the 6? To understand what's going on, let's take a look of what's going on under the covers and walk through the code ourselves. So we have Jenny set up. It's a reference variable that is a list. I'm kind of representing it like an array, but it's accomplishing the same thing. So I have Jenny as my reference variable. It's a list. I have a number of indexes starting at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's size 7. It contains the integers 8675309. Let's start with our loop. So we start out initializing integer I to 0. We test. Is I less than jenny.size? Jenny.size is 7? Yes, I is less than jenny.size. And then we'll say if, so we go into our loop. If jenny.get at index I is 0, so jenny.get at index 0 will give us 8. If 8 mod 2 equals 0, that's true. So we're going to call jenny.remove at index I. So we'll remove what's at index 0. In a list, when one element gets removed, everything else is going to shift over 1. So what was at index 1 goes to index 0. Whoopsie, didn't mean to move that one. And so on and so forth. Everything gets shifted over. Now my list, instead of being length 7, is now length 6, or indexes 0 through 5. Great. So far, so good. I'm at the end of my for loop, so now I'm going to increment I. I is going to go from 0 to 1. I test. Is 1 less than jenny.size? Jenny.size is 6. 1 is less than 6. Go into our loop. If jenny.get at index I is 1, jenny.get at index 1 gives me 7. Okay. If 7 mod 2 is equal to 0, it's not. So we don't go into that if statement. We're at the bottom of our loop. We increment I. I is now 2. Is 2 less than 6? Yes, it is. We go in. If Jenny.get at index 2, index I is 2, Jenny.get at index 2 is going to give me 5. If 5 mod 2 is equal 0, it's not. So we don't go into that if statement. We go to the end of our loop. We do our end of loop condition is I++. I switches from 2 to 3. Is 3 less than Jenny.size? 3 is indeed less than 6. So we'll go into our loop again. If Jenny.get at index 3 is 3. 3 mod 2 equals 0. That's false. So we don't go into this if statement. We're at the bottom of our for loop again. I++. I goes from 3 to 4. Is 4 less than Jenny.size? Jenny.size is 6. 4 is less than 6. That's true. So we go into our loop. If Jenny.get at index I is 4, index I is 0. 0 mod 2 equals 0. That is true. So we'll say Jenny.remove at index I. So that gets removed and everything shifts over. So that 9 shifts over and the size of our list goes down by 1. That gets deleted. The size of our list goes down by 1. All right. So now we're at the bottom of our for loop. We'll do I++. I is going to go from 4 to 5. Is 5 less than Jenny.size? Jenny.size is 5. So 5 is not less than 5. So we're done with our for loop. And I goes out of scope. We look at what Jenny's left with and 6, 7, 5, 3, 9. So we can see exactly what happened of why we shouldn't remove items as we're iterating through the list. Because as we remove something, everything else shifts down. So we could do something hacky in here and say, when we remove something, we decrement I, so we recheck that index again. That's a little on the hacky side. Maybe a better idea is instead of removing items from a list, we create a new list and add the items we want to keep to the new list and then return the new list. Thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes. Hopefully you learned something new, gained some insight. Thank you.